Hey everybody, welcome back to Swing Trading. My name is Mike Fairborn. Great to be back with you folks. I spent a lot of time recently looking at different indicators that could be helpful in a turbulent market and really just kind of trying to see what's operating behind the scenes. One of those things that we can look at is an indicator that can lead can lead price, and that's volume and volume indicators in general. I want to look at the on-balance volume specifically and really trying to look at ways or we can use that on balance volume to not be late, but to maybe see the volume trend, that is the trend of accumulation developing early. Could be a really great feature for traders that use that. And oftentimes, just seeing, in terms of how volume accumulation works with on balance volume, but watching that grow, are we getting more buyers than sellers coming in? Can be a fascinating thing to look at. And we do have some very interesting examples to take a look at today in relationship to that on balance volume indicator for those of you that do use that. But looking forward to getting the show on the road here. Hello to each of you. We've got Josh. Good afternoon, Josh. Richard. Hello to you, Richard. As well as Jay Richardson. Richard J. Richardson. We've got Paul. We've got Will, David, Robert, Greg, Art, and many others here. Good to have you on board, folks. Life at the Fast Lane, and Jim and others, folks. Riceberg, hello to you as well, Alfie. Folks, I'm joined in the chat by a good friend and colleague of mine, one that is very knowledgeable with technical analysis that we employ in this class on a regular basis here, and that is Connie Hill. You'll see in the chat as CH. You can follow us both on X, Connie Hill, CS, Mike Fairborn, CS, folks. Let's dive into some disclosures to get the show on the road here. Plenty to discuss here today. Okay, information here is for general information purposes only. Now, the paper money software application is for educational purposes only. Investing does involve risk, including the loss of principal. Now, there's no guarantee that the execution of a stop order will be at or near the stop price. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. Dividends are not guaranteed. So a lot of times within this class, we will look at stocks, and some of them today that we'll be looking at, although we're not in it for maybe a long stretch, but some of them do pay dividends, and that can be of interest to income-minded investors. And sometimes they buy when dividends have been consistent over a long period of time and dividends have been going up. But I just want to state, as we look at some of those perhaps today, dividends are not guaranteed. They can be cut at any time. All right, final slide here. Futures and futures options trading is not suitable for all investors. Some final disclosure slides to be mindful of there as we dive on into it. Well, welcome all of you just joining us right now. Let's go ahead and take a look at our markets here and see what we've got. I sent out a little tweet just last night, just stating that, hey, there are a few different interesting elements to be mindful of here on the market. One of them, just to do a quick review on the market, we had gone below the simple period moving average of the 50, which oftentimes can correlate to these extended sort of market moves that go on over a longer period of time. It was right there. It was right at the bottom of this longer term trend line. We did dip below it yesterday. Now, I can't tell you how many times I've seen a longer term trend do something like this, but then they'll have this candle reversal. There's one right there. And lo and behold, we've got another one over here. We don't know if this will follow through in let's say a November type trend follow through towards the end of the year, where we tend to get seasonal strength going into the end of the year, higher highs and higher lows. That remains to be seen. One of the real key elements that a lot of traders will utilize when they're looking at markets, when they're looking at stocks, if that trend is up, and that trend is up, the longer term trend's up, we could say the shorter term trend did hit a lower low right there, and based on a lower high. Okay. It's very, very short term, folks. It's not even over a month's time frame yet. It's getting closer to a month, but it's not even 1 month yet. So it's a very, very minute time frame here. And that's how longer term trends develop to the downside. But I would say even like the shorter term trend up to a month's time frame, still higher. That's a higher high over the prior month. We don't have one yet. That still is a higher low than we've got right here. Intermediate term time frame is up, and so is the longer term time frame. The trends are all up. So one of the things that can help us to understand, will it kind of fake or continue on, is the very next day. And this is built into a lot of different candlestick charting analysis, and that is just what happens the next day. Do we close higher the next day? Here's another example right there of that hammer pattern. And we don't even know if it's going to be a hammer. There's still about an hour left in today's trading day. But do we close higher the next day? That's your read on the confirmation. If we did, and if that follows through, guess what we're getting close to? We're getting close to, well, a little bit of horizontal support, corollary is resistance. We're right there right now. A diagonal form of support or resistance, and then your moving average line. So there's kind of a cluster of things going on here, and it can really depend upon, maybe bouncing off some of these support levels, holding this level and going higher. Remains to be seen. Tomorrow could be interesting. The rest of this week could be interesting to see what we do get. But right now, since those longer term timeframes are up, we're still going to be looking at maybe some of those bullish positions. We will look at bearish positions too when trends turn down, but the market's been up for quite some time. You'll remember this time frame over here, we were looking at a lot of downward trends. Well, we got signs of continuing weakness in the market. So let's focus in on that right now and just see what we've got. Because sometimes too, by the way, this is very, very common as well. When you get a similar low, which we're getting close to, sometimes you'll get a similar high range too. So there you go. Similar low, or similar high, whichever forms first, you might end up getting this range. And this can be very bullish for stocks that might be showing bull flag patterns, inverted head and shoulders patterns, potentially setting up, or even triple bottoms, double bottoms as well, things along those lines. By the way, triangles, diamond bottoms, there's a few out there to go through, but we're going to kind of just use this, and I wanted to spend a little bit more time on this because it is interesting, the market right now, to see what we get. The Dow itself, it's got a funny sign over here, $ DJI, to get the Dow Jones Industrial Average. That was down. It too, though, had a bit of a bounce. Anytime you want to see what's moving in the markets, just go over here. I had the Dow pulled up. What was moving on the day to the downside? Well, Home Depot, Amazon, Microsoft, kind of a mixed bag, really. I mean, if you look at what we've got over here in terms of sub-industries, it's all over the place. So quite a few movers in there. You got a couple companies that had earnings within the last 5 days and beat them. That would be Cisco Systems, and that would be Disney. So sometimes those companies can show further strength. There you go. There's your beat right there with Cisco. But that is just a little, you can actually find something like that if you wanted to in our, let's see, our ThinkScript class on Thursdays. All right, well, let's dive in back to it. I'm just going to take this 50 off for now. We might get back to it. But there we go. This is what I've got set up here for us. I've got our good old on-balance volume, very, very similar to money flow. It is a different formula. It's a different sort of a calculation, and there are variations. But I want to talk about this in just a second. Before we do so, let's talk about a review of our trades from last week. DHR, as you recall, was a swing trade setup. And here we are. We're looking at a swing trade. It was a flag pattern right here. We did a small entry here on the Cahold. We thought it would be a Cahold, and it ended up being one too. 6 months so we can actually see this, but it was right here. And remember, some of these are these price patterns that we look at are what some traders will say are the strongest price patterns out there. We like to focus in on those for the swing trade class, because remember, we're looking at a 3 to 15-day move. So we try to use the strongest of what we've got in terms of price patterns, trends, indicators, and volume, which is kind of separate in and of itself. Volume is, I've always kind of considered it an indicator, but it's a little bit unique. It's not exactly an indicator like a momentum type indicator. But anyways, we tie all this in together. A little bit more emphasis on volume because we're going to dive in deep into it today. But folks, that's the key. 3 to 15 days, finding the strongest of what we can get out there in this class. And one of those, some traders will look for is a bull flag pattern. That's that bull flag right there. So we're looking at this move. There's a little bit of a consolidation here, but we're really looking for this move here to be reflective of a move to come. Now, some of you that are familiar with Elliott wave analysis, I've done Elliott wave for years. You might recognize this as a one move and then an ABC followed through by a possible 3 move, which can be the largest move of the pattern itself. It's funny because it does kind of develop with a flag pattern, but we're looking for, ultimately, you can look at it that way. You can look at it just simply as a price pattern, but I mentioned the Elliott wave because I'm not measuring it off this low. I'm measuring it off this low for that very reason. And there's the possibility of a follow through. We're doing okay on this because we bought this basically right through here. We did not know we were going to get a hold right there. Close above the high of the low day. And we got it. That is our, well, some would say the next day follow through, the confirmation day. And that's your follow through to the upside day. Well, there's no guarantee that it will follow through, but a lot of traders will say that it just gives them more conviction, right? More expectation that it will go higher right there. Because, how do you get higher after a flag that might be setting up? You've got to close higher. And that is by definition a close higher. There's your follow through. Now, remember what we talked about last week? We said if we were to close above this bar, and what's funny is as in watching this, we tested it, but we didn't close above it. We said we would add to this position if it was showing some strength right here. And we might add the additional, we just did a small position. It's kind of an expensive stock, but there'd be an additional 25 shares. That was our first 25 shares. It was a plus 25 right there in our paper money account. The second one right here, you're getting a good bar. I would say this, the volume's a little bit weak. And because of that, volume. Okay, so that's kind of the entry. I want to make this succinct so you have it all in mind as we go through this and we talk about, because a lot of what we discuss here are really tied into price patterns. So let me just hit the price pattern portion real quick. Again, what we're doing is I'll draw it with, not that. What the heck? All right, I'm clicking all kinds of stuff. There you go. What we're doing is we're taking this initial move in terms of a flag pattern here. What we're doing is we're adding that price range to this. I'm just going to kind of eyeball, but it was somewhere about here, just eyeballing. It's approximately this level. That's what we thought we would take this move at if we got a strong move to the upside, right? So that is referred to as a T2 target. That is the full extension of the pole of the flag. If it were to hit that, this would be using this higher point, as we said right here, that would be a T1, and we sometimes will take the trade off at a T1 as well. Now take a look at this with me. As we measure this along here, that is a prior resistance level. We touched right there, we sold off. Here we are again, maybe to break above if we get a hold there, but look at that volume. And the volume's been a little bit light coming up. It's okay, but it's just something to keep in mind. So one thing we've talked about is we could also take the trade early, exit, and just take the existing paper money profits if it breaks a moving average here, because, well, it's at resistance. And that can mean that prices could come down. They might break out here very sharply, and we'd be fine with that. But remember, we talked about a quicker moving average that actually one developed in the ThinkScript class. This is not, it's not original to the platform. We had to create the code behind this, but this is the zero lag exponential moving average. The 34 is a common number used. I'm just going to go ahead and put this in as a 2. That's fine. We'll just put this in as a cyan level right here. But notice we haven't got a close below that level yet. A close below this number, and it's interesting is we're getting some touch points right off it, and didn't really, we got very close to it, but off this initial bounce. Of course, on the pullback we did, but this is our flag setup. That's actually the entry, but believe it or not, the exit could be a close below here. Now, that's a very, very tight moving average, and it can be helpful when prices have run up quite a bit too. That's kind of a nice little run there, but if they run up and kind of sharp, it will tend to hold prices very nicely, and it could be an indication to look for a potential exit if prices cross back down below. The one thing I would say, because we have this line on here, it kind of shows me if we were to break below, look at this. This is what it kind of highlights for me. See this low level right there? How many times did we bounce off that? A lot. very close to 4 days. Not quite yesterday, but very close. Now, imagine if we were to close below here, that might mean a potential exit. But at the same time, what we're giving up here is all of this gain, which is a lot of our gain actually, because we bought somewhere in here. Exiting here, you wouldn't get as much, but that's the trade-off. You know, if prices were to come down and break below that level, you're giving up potentially that kind of a profitability. So what some traders will do, if they expect the possibility of a pullback, they might even take half of it off the table, and so they're cashing out at a higher level. Anyways, I wanted to go through some potential exit scenarios that traders might consider as well. Remember that setup we talked about, that would have been helpful on something like a PSX, where over here on Phillips, you know, we had this nice little swing bounce, and it looked like the development of a flag pattern. We did an assessment on this. Oil was probably a little bit too weak. It didn't rally, and so it didn't really maybe assist Phillips 66, but having something down here could have locked in some of these gains off our original bounce. Anyways, that's just a thought that comes to mind, okay? So I want to throw that out there, but it really kind of depends on how you feel about it. But we built an indicator like that for that reason. Anyways, DHR, that's kind of an overview of it. I will be watching this. If I do get a close, I'm going to add to that position, and we'll see if we do get that follow through or some weakness. The last thing, and that was a lot, but we're throwing out some concepts in here with some of these trades that we did, you know, in terms of a review that we previously done, because you want to be able to have, you know, some ideas of trade management too. As that trade's unfolding, very, very important to watching potential profitability and all. A key point is if you have a big move like this that is taking out resistance, and then you cross 50% below that large bar right there, that oftentimes spells weakness, is what a lot of traders will say. And so that could be an early sort of an indication there. So I don't know how many people are doing a paper trade on this, but we wanted to hit that one pretty hard. And I want to keep tabs on, you know, trade management techniques as well, while we are looking at these trades. Now, the other one that we did last week was BG. Let's see. You know, Beth, real quick, I haven't done scanning. That's a great topic, though, and that's something I can definitely fit in the loop there for you as we go through it. Okay. Yes, let me share that. Let me share that zero lag EMA. In fact, you can get that too. I give a lot more details on it if, in fact, you are interested. You can find something like that over here. Just real quick, I sometimes hesitate bringing it up because it kind of takes us away, but, you know, I want to show you that you could do it. Here's our swing trade classes, of course, and Connie covered for me. I really appreciate Connie doing that. But you have to kind of go in here into our Trader Talks channel. You can go down into the ThinkScript. I'm going to be really quick here and just spot that. I believe it's right down. No, it's not. Oh, let's see. There it is. It's right there. Okay. So many that they revolve around a little bit, but I'll just put this in here. The zero lag EMA is in there, and I do share it in the description field. So I will do this. I will post this link in, and then I'm just going to quickly share it. And I wanted to note to you that the zero lag EMA and any really indications there, ThinkScript that are created, are not guaranteed for timeliness or accuracy. It's all dependent upon the data that's flowing through the platform. If the platform, pull that up again one more time. All right. Anyhow, let's go ahead and we'll take a look at that. Pull it up. I don't know. I might need to just have you go to that link, but it is at the bottom down there through that in that group. So there you go. Okay. BG. What do we have on BG? There you can see is our existing stop right there. And just a quick note on those stops. I just want to make sure you guys have this, because the stops themselves are, you got to be mindful of the stops as we look at those, but there's no guarantee that the execution of a stop order will be at or near that stop price. So please keep that in mind as well. Okay. Please keep that in mind. So as I come over here, we'll get back to it. Over here on that BG, remember BG or Bungie, this was a scenario we were looking at. We did have a trade on this, And it's been kind of flat through here. It's been a little bit erratic. There were some earnings that came out. The earnings came in at 227 right here. This was a little bit different. We're waiting to see if the market will pick up on the soybean and a discussion of soybean. China, promising a soybean purchase throughout the end of this year. And we'll see if that does unfold a certain amount. I want to say it's like 87 million tons or so. It's a big number. Don't quote me on that, but that might be influenced. Bunge, I think, has one of the biggest revenue sources in terms of any U.S. company for soybeans themselves, and it's kind of running. So this one might be pushed higher by a macroeconomic move. That's what we're tying it into here. And you guys, like we've talked about previously, there is, in fact, right there, the flag type pattern. Do you see it? There's the breakout. There's the consolidation. And will it go right there? That's the question. That's the question. Will it break out and go? So, we're watching it still. We do have that potential exit level in the form of a stop right there. But if prices were to come up here and break higher, what we'll tend to do on this, managing this, is if prices go up, in fact, they break higher right there, what we could do is just take that stop and move it right up to the next level. That's another technique too. But if it were to run, where is that pattern projection taking us to on this? If that macro theme unfolds and price action takes off, folks, it's just the same swing trade type pattern. There's your move in price. And you've got these grid lines on here. It's so helpful. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can count those off of basically towards the end of this point. I could just say 1, 2, 3, 4 right there. So about 115 or so. I'm just kind of eyeballing it, but that could be a target for you on BG on that kind of a move. And by the way, some traders might want to wait for it to break out as well. I did pay a 70-cent dividend right there, and that's kind of maybe adjusted a little bit lower there as well. But there you go. By the way, 100 can be a big level, and it could take some force to get through that 100 level. Okay, just see if we have any follow-up questions on that. No problem there, Jeff. And oh, cool. Chris has already posted. Thank you, Chris. So there you go. It's posted in the chat for you there. Awesome. All right. Oh, that playlist link didn't work? Oh, interesting. Oh, thank you. But Connie did post it. Thanks, Connie. All right. Appreciate it. Connie. All right, folks. All right. Well, let's dive into our discussion here today and talk about on balance volume and really trying to help with certain companies that might have a history of building up volume over a period of time, and traders that might be using it because they don't want to necessarily, they're looking at it so their eyes focus in on it. They don't want to be late on the trade. I'm going to throw one out here, CCEP. I don't know if you guys have seen this before. It's the Coca-Cola Euro Pacific. And I'm going to scoot it back a little bit because capturing that long-term on balance volume is really quite interesting. Let's go to a 1 year. That's plenty. Okay. So what we're saying here, and let's describe this as well. So similar to money flow, on balance volume, we'll look at the volume of a bar. And here is a great example of a large volume block or set of blocks on that day. Just large total volume. It says this volume, we will add that amount of volume to our on balance volume, which is exactly what we did. You can see it jump from the prior day. It's a big jump up. We add this volume right here if we close up on the day. So it says when we're moving higher and there's more volume, it can influence the trend of the volume line, is how the on balance volume line in factor it works. Okay, that's how it functions. If it goes up higher over a period of time, folks, that's how it happens over a period of time. You can see it like this: higher highs, higher lows. And what's fascinating about it is it takes up volume accumulation, what we're looking at here. And it says this. It says over periods of time, you might start to see accumulation of volume. Is the trend going higher? Folks, ACC for short, I'm seeing that trend going up. We just hit a brand new high on accumulation of volume in terms of the OBV. OBV for short. You might hear it called that, on balance volume. Now, prices up top have consolidated on the base of a longer term upward trend. And there's been some growth within this company in terms of just longer term growth, but we've seen a recent consolidation. What's interesting is when you look at OBV, let me ask you this. Has volume accumulated, or have people been buying more or selling more? So on the days up, they're buying more, right? On the days down, when you close lower, conversely, you take that volume and subtract it, they are selling more or selling less. So if we take this range up here and we say that's a consolidation in a longer term trend, what's happened? Have we been getting more buying or more selling? It looks as though the smart money, this is what this is referred to a lot of times, traders will look at this. What did they do? They actually, according to this, there's been more buying on up days than selling on down days. So they saw this, if we're looking at it through the lens of on balance volume, as an opportunity. The pullback is an opportunity to accumulate shares, not sell. So it may not be something they're seeing as a negative as much as it is a positive. And in fact, what fundamentalists will do, and some of the big traders out there in the market, is if prices go down and fundamentals of the company improve, then sometimes they'll end up buying more. We don't know exactly what's happening here, but like I said, it's been known as a smart money indicator, and that could be the case. Now, what I found interesting here to a degree is I said this is up. It is bottoming to agree over, let's say, a short intermediate term, definitely. But shoulder, head, potential shoulder down here. Do you guys see it? We don't yet have a close above the high of the low day. It's already paid its dividend, right? So we're past that. But if we see something like that move, well, there could be a larger size move. And let me just tell you what that would look like if we're looking at that price pattern, at least at the initial. Now, in inverse head and shoulders bottom, there's an initial point that it could run, but it could signal a longer term change in the trend as well, too, which makes it interesting. But look, come down here with me. If you take this low to this high right there, okay, so it's about 8 points. You would take this, depending upon where it bottoms at, right here, and you would simply add in 8 points as well for the initial inverted head and shoulders pattern target. Now, sometimes, folks, they won't go down all the way. For example, like over here, you might not get. I mean, some of the stronger head and shoulder inverted head and shoulders patterns are the ones where the right shoulder really is a little bit higher. But what we're getting at here is you got this low, you got a new high here too. And you might not make a low that comes all the way down here. But watching this for the hold could be interesting, because what's behind this? What's telling us that the volume trend, the trend of volume, is building, In other words, if you get more and more buying coming in, let's say all else equal, into a stock, considering its float, available shares outstanding out there to purchase in the float into the market's hands, price can become sensitive, right? And so if you start to just get normal buying, perhaps it becomes more sensitive, they can move up. So all else equal, we're using this indication as a positive indication to help us out. You see that? So it's not just a flag, it's not just a bottom, it's not just everything else we looked at, and possibly some good fundamentals, not just to mention, a recent breakout above highs and a pullback here, but we might be seeing somebody accumulating. It can take a lot of buying to influence something like an on-balance volume. It can take a lot. I mean, this volume that that right there was 2.73 million shares, 4 million shares. A lot of times it's not the retail buyer, unless they're all buying at once. It's what you're seeing out there with some of the institutions to move that. There's no guarantee of that, but just by the code that we're looking at. It can take a lot to move it. So park that one in the back of your mind. We're actually getting also what today? A little bit of a candle pattern here. It's like a little bit of a hammer. I do see some support over here. So what we could be doing is we could be watching here for a close above this level or a break above, or really just a hold right there. So I'm going to tell you what we be looking at. I'm going to put a little alert on this right here. If we do get one, we are going to be buying this for our class as an example here. Okay, with that money flow being such an interesting guide here for us. Okay. All right, so that's our first one. Let's keep going. So that's sort of in the consumer staples area. We've seen maybe a little bit of rotation from high-tech stocks into consumer staples. Healthcare has been moving. Utilities have been strong. I'm going to take a look at Dover here as well. Notice over here with me, we've got this this significant breakout right here. Oh, by the way, before I go on, this is how, very, very important point, how traders will use that OBV. They use it as a calculation. Now look over here with me. Take a look at this up top. They'll say this: we took out this high right there at 100, right? I'm sorry, we touched off that 100 level. They will come down here. Okay, that's my mouse sliding off. They don't do that exactly, but they do something like this right here. If they take it all the way down to roughly this high right there, notice we broke well above that level. So all this could be volume accumulation, meaning to people that use this indicator, we could, unbalanced volume tells us we should at least get up to 100. We should actually break 100 because it took this amount of volume right over here to get the unbalanced volume up this high and prices correspondingly up this high. Well, with higher volume, we should be able to take out that 100. Now, 100 is kind of one of those big levels, so we could get it. So that comes back into what I was saying, what we're looking at here. If we were to kind of bounce off this level, maybe 98 or so, according to unbalanced volume, we should take out 100. That is a really, really cool principle that we have. We're going to do the exact same thing over here with Dover, and I'm going to highlight this. Now, Dover over here, let's take a look at this too. It's kind of setting up. There's been some strength. We also had some a good earnings announcement. At least, it beat earnings, as you can see right there. And the market responded favorably, meaning that they probably didn't guide lower for earnings too. So we're past that, which is interesting. It does have a dividend date coming up, ex-dividend date. But here is kind of that setup, and this is more like coming off of a little bit of I'm not going to say it's like off the bottom area, but you can see this rally up here, sideways up. We're really kind of holding this range nicely, aren't we? And after we've been holding this range, volume by and large has been doing pretty good. I realize we sold off a little bit since here, but we're really waiting for maybe a little bit of a confirmation bar to come through after this level as well. So this, I think, could be an interesting one to keep tabs on as well. I'm going to use a totally different alert here. It's going to be the downward sloping trend line. Let me know, text me, email me if we break above this level. Right click, create alert withdrawing instead. So this is not just an alert, like create alert down here. It's with an actual drawing tool. Cool feature. You got to change this though, because the default is below, crosses above is what we're going to put. And I'm just going to put this trend line break. So that comes through on my text message. You guys got it? I don't have a signal here just yet. I like to put trades in, but I'm fine putting them in tomorrow or the next day if it breaks. Now, to get that to text you or to email you folks, just go to setup, application settings, go right over here to notifications right there, and you can plug that in, right? Your email, etc. Okay, your text message. But those two I've got. And so keep that in mind, but that is also one that's quite interesting. Let's continue on. DG. So DG right here, a little bit of a base. You can see unbalanced volume did not make this is interesting too. Look at the divergence down below. Positive divergence right there. Positive divergence. Higher low, slightly lower low on the price. we had less sellers coming in and more buyers to create that positive divergence. Now we've had a smaller move to the upside, but we're already breaking above these highs. Now, all else equal, we're seeing some early signs that this could be interesting. We're kind of flattening out as well. Be mindful there's an earnings announcement right here, but this is what you'd refer to as kind of a bull flat. It's very, very short term in nature. A strong upward move, maybe a bit of a bounce, and then we're kind of flattening out here. The one issue you've got here, while we can't pull the trigger on this yet either, I mean, we could, but for the paper trade, but look how close we are to resistance. That's resistance right there. We don't have to doubt it. There's a lot of different wicks of the candle that are being hit there as touch, 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 touch. You know, maybe you're looking for something like a break above there, but be mindful of earnings on this Dollar General. If I back out of this Dollar General, I do have to say this. There is a very long-term support level that's coming in right there too, at that 95, which we've bounced off of a couple of different times too, right? I mean, that when we broke above it, we kind of retested, bounced up. There's another bounce. On balance volume is starting to pick up a little bit. That's a decent example. So I've got another one in here I could potentially look at. I'm going to put it like a close above these lines over here. So I'm going to do another one. Breakout, question mark, another alert. I know I'm going crazy on these, but there's just so many that could go either way. This is so close to resistance. And if we're that close to resistance, why not just wait a little bit to see what does in fact unfold? Okay, DD. You might have looked at some of these commodity companies that have shown some strength. Here is a really interesting follow through in terms of that on balance volume. A lot of strength as prices are going higher. Do we have a bounce yet? No. DuPont, you know, many of these have been influenced by commodities. You can see volume really come down, which is a positive after the flag. And let's go ahead and just get that projection in there so you can see this projection on another commodity type move here. There you go. Commodity up. There's been a lot of talk about rare earth materials and being able to manufacture those, or I should say refine those. It's a form of manufacturing, but these commodities have been quite strong there. If we were to bottom somewhere in this range, that little flag pattern that fits our timing on a swing trade, folks, it would fit pretty much right in there. A lot of these commodity stocks have been moving. For example, SQM. You see it? Pretty decent bounce there. Not a really expensive stock either. It's shown some strength. Another one, ALB. Think of the mining and manufacture of rare earth materials. We're starting to see some trends here with volume, and that's one area where DuPont is maybe a little bit of a laggard. These guys are maybe on the leader side, but there's some of these are quite interesting. Another one out here, I'm just going to throw it out, CF. Support all through here, another big commodity firm. And look at this. On balance volume went flat. So what does this tell us? It tells me, and especially with this recent bounce up, I was going to say people aren't really selling as much as the stock chart would show. They actually might be buying because we're already almost to this level. I wasn't even really going to show this one, but I thought I would because commodities are kind of moving lately. That's the move right there. We hit that high, so we take this level and we say, okay, there's your high range. According to on balance volume, we should take out 95. It's kind of interesting. According to that, we should at least be able to trade up to that level, if not break it. So that would be kind of one of these, what are we saying here? A zigzag bounce right through there. I'm going to do this. We don't really have a price pattern here, aside from the fact that you've got a lot of support testing right through here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say this. Folks, what would it have to do to go higher here? Some people might say, yeah, I'll try to accumulate a little bit off the bottom. You know, if they knew this company, if they liked it. It did dip after earnings. But another way to take a swing trade is let me start following it after at least it starts to make at least a bare minimum, a high above this level so that we can get a trend change. And I'm just going to put that in there. I put this in here so that I could recognize that a potential trend change right there. Did you guys see that? Trend change right there. Do we get it or do we not? Right above that point. So I've got an alert in there. You know, I haven't looked at this fundamentally, would be a way that a trader could look at it, but you know, this is saying, hey, the trend of volume is building, and all else equal, if you have a support level and there's more buyers than sellers, in the minds of the people that do use this, and it's a very unique indicator, it uses volume as opposed to price action. There's a price action correlation, but really ties into volume. Do we think that this support is stronger when you get a positive divergence with on-balance volume, or is it weaker? Or is it just, you know, neutral? So that's a consideration to think about, right? All right. I've given us a lot. That's a kind of a bottom here. Some of you guys like tops, some of you like bottoms. Can I give you a couple more? And then we're done. Unfortunately, we just didn't get anything breaking out today. But here is CRM, and CRM has been holding over a long stretch. What's happened with on-balance volume? On-balance volume has been making its way up. It held pretty good through here. It held really good, but look at it relative to prices. Folks, if we start to move up a little bit and on-balance volume breaks this level above here, if it gets above this line, that tells us that according to on-balance volume, it could be the start of a very extended upward trend. That's what it tells us, according to on-balance volume. In other words, there's been accumulation. People are buying because they think, according to the indicator, right, that they think that there's something brewing behind the scenes, but it's been just in a downward decline. These are tough to get out of, but it's been going flat. Look at this. Beat earnings. I went back and looked. Beat earnings. Beat earnings. Beat earnings. Beat earnings. There's the last year. It's beat earnings, according to what we're seeing here, every time, and I think they've guided higher. So it's interesting. Will that support level hold up? Some traders might be interested. Wanted to throw it out to you guys. One more. We said there could be rotations into BMY. Now, big picture, I realize we've dipped a little bit through here, right there, but on on-balance volume, but you know, we're really holding up quite a bit, relatively speaking. So if you could start to see us just breaking up again here, maybe something could be interesting in terms of what traders might pick up on in terms of the trend. That's Bristol Myers Squibb. They too have a history of paying those dividends, but we talked about that a little bit before. Folks, that's what I had today. I really wanted to put some trades on, but guess what? The good news is, if they do break above those, I think that's important to look at, you know. If they break above them and get the actual signal, that's what's important. Then we can put those on, and I will put those trades on later this week so that we can monitor those going forward. But folks, if you found today's presentation helpful, useful, we introduced this indicator that can be really interesting in terms of that trend building up behind the scenes and helping you not to be late on a move. You can kind of be ready for that volume building. On-balance volume could be very useful in that regard. And so it can, in fact, lead a price bounce, particularly if it's got that divergence indicator there, though. So, folks, if you found today's presentation informative, just smash that like button. It lets me know it's helpful for you guys. And be sure to follow us on X. And by the way, Connie mentioned here there is a survey in the chat, a very quick survey. If you're able to fill that out, I look at those. My manager looks at those. And those are great, too, for topic requests, which I did get earlier. And we can look at a scan that we got, some scans and things to keep in mind there. A lot of scans, too, in the ThinkScript class. Be sure to also take a look at what Connie's got. Teaches some great classes as well. All right, everybody. Well, that wraps it up. We hit there's a lot to talk about when you introduce a new indicator like this, but I want to show you several examples out there in the market right now. Keep a watch on those. I'll place those trades in the paper money account if they do hit. It's been great being with you, folks. Have a great rest of the day. See you next time.